Today, we're breaking down our top 10 NFL draft prospects ahead of the college football season and why wide receiver Jeremiah Smith sits at the top all by himself.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I'm Damian Parson. That's Keith Sanchez. And today's episode is all about our dueling top 10 prospects of the preseason going into the 2026 college football season ahead of the 2027 NFL draft. We're going to break this thing down simple. How many quarterbacks? We can talk about the quarterbacks a little bit later to close out the show. How many quarterbacks inside our top 10s, the top defensive prospects that you need to know about heading into the season. But let's talk about the fact of, is there a clear, just outright number one prospect? And why is it Jeremiah Smith, Keith? Like that's the question. Is he the clear? And just because we haven't had I feel like we haven't had a class where it's just been one guy that the consensus truly feels is truly the best. Like, yeah, like, you know, we've had class where people project like, oh, I believe this quarterback or the guy that's actually proven. To me, the clear-cut number one for me, Keith, it is Jeremiah Smith out of Ohio State. And I don't really think that there's anybody in the same room as him right now.
Yeah, well, and the reason we usually don't have this, right, is because we usually don't get the combination of potential plus production, right?
Yeah.
Or athletic upside times production, right? Usually prospects have one of the two, right? Even when projecting quarterbacks, right? We say, oh, hey, if they have a really big year, they could be this, right? Wide receivers in the past, we've said the same thing about it. But listen, this is a young man, DP. And listen, I jumped in my statistical bag. I did the stats, right? I did the stats a little bit. Listen, this is a young man, 2024 had 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns. 2025 had 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns. So you're talking about a young man who hasn't even played his third year of college football yet, right? A true junior, has 27 total touchdowns already, right? Like, that is insane to think about, the fact that he can finish with over 40 touchdowns in a 3-year career. Then let's go ahead and add in the height, weight, speed situation, right? Young man listed at 6'3", 200 and close to 230 pounds, right? Explosive athlete, run after the catch ability, huge catch radius, dominant guy, hard to tackle. So you ask yourself, how is this young man stoppable? And I think just of the wide receiver prospects, right? He's one of the most complete wide receiver prospects that we've seen come out of the NFL draft, where you watch his game and you can't say, hey, there's a ton of holes, right? And listen, when it comes down to positional value and all those things, right? Know my motto, take the positional value chart, throw it out the window, right? That's my motto. But listen, it's not how everything goes, right? I understand it. Every top 5 pick isn't created equal. So I want people to understand. Carnell Tate went number 4 last year, right? If Jeremiah Smith, because how this board falls with Arch Manning and Darian Mensah and a potential offensive tackle, goes number 4 in this upcoming draft, it is not the same thing, right? And so I just want people to understand, and the reason he was the clear number one prospect is because when we go down this checklist, right? And DP, I know you feel the same way, right? Because we've had plenty of conversation about draft prospects. It's about poking holes, right? It's about saying, hey, like, what is this guy good at? But what are his deficiencies, right? And the less deficiencies you have for your specific position, the higher you climb up my board, right?
Absolutely.
When I say, you know what, you're not missing anything, you're a blue chip rare prospect. And for Jeremiah Smith, there's not much that I see that he's missing as an overall prospect.
No, yeah, he's a complete package. And like you said, Keith, we haven't seen a wide receiver like this in quite a long time. And, I tweeted out, I believe it was yesterday, as I was preparing for today's show. And I was like, yeah, he's got the highest grade, for me that I've ever given out since I've been doing this. And people were
you said of wide receivers or overall?
Just overall, like the highest grade I've given since I've been doing this. And I had a lot of people, I had a couple people either comment or quote tweet. My tweet was like, even higher than Calvin Johnson. I'm like, guys, I was not out of high school yet. I was not out of high school when Megatron was like leaving Georgia Tech. So yeah, like it's a little different situation. I was finishing up high school when he was going to the NFL. I didn't have a draft board to set. I didn't have a scouting report to write at that time. But I knew that he was one of those ones, as the young kids say, Keith. But no, I'm with you. Now I wanted to kick it back to you. You had the luxury, the benefit, everything to be able to watch Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson in person at practice, prepping for games, live in games on the sideline. How does he compare? Because for most people, when they say, man, one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen has been Ja'Marr Chase coming out of it's just that 1 year of dominance in 2019 and everything. And he's taken that into the NFL, him and Justin Jefferson. How does Jeremiah Smith compare and how does he measure up for you to what you saw with Jet and Chase?
Yeah, DP. I'm gonna tell you this, because people always ask me this, right? And this is why that question it gets me going and it bothers me a little bit, right? Because it's so difficult. Because watching those young men, I hate when people even get me to compare Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson because they were totally different wide receivers, right? But they were both so dominant in what they did, but different. They went about it in different ways, right? I always compare, of our era when people say like the Randy Moss versus Terrell Owens. It's like, yeah, I mean, just pick one, right? They're both really good. And so when you add Jeremiah Smith in that, first I put him more towards the Ja'Marr Chase scale. I lean him more towards that side, but I also look at it from the perspective of he's 2 inches taller and probably about 15, 20 pounds heavier. So you look at it from that perspective. I think that if you're talking about draft prospects, right? And this is not me tooting my horn because there have been prospects I've been wrong. I am not surprised Justin Jefferson is who he is, but Justin Jefferson also was not the highly touted draft prospect, right? I don't think anybody came out of the draft hemisphere and thought Justin Jefferson was going to be the best wide receiver, right? But with Ja'Marr Chase, he was put in that realm. And so I'm going to compare Ja'Marr Chase and Jeremiah Smith. And I think as far as prospects, Jeremiah Smith probably would have been one notch higher. It's probably going to finish one notch higher because he has the 2 inches and the 20 pounds, which goes into the prospect. But if Jeremiah Smith ended up with a very similar game in the NFL to Ja'Marr Chase, I would not be surprised because there are a lot of comparables about the physicality that they play with in the run after the catch dominance. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. Okay. Right. No. You hit the nail on the head with that. That's why I wanted to ask. I was like, you had because when we, over at Bleacher Report, we dropped our top 1,000. I know some fans probably weren't happy with it. When you look at the wide receiver rankings, I had Chase and Jet as my top 2 wide receivers. I didn't care about Justin Jefferson coming off a down year. JJ McCarthy was inaccurate. Like the quarterback situation was a problem.
It's a dependent position.
It's a
gotta have a quarterback to get you in football.
So it's like, and I'm also grading traits and not just that, what he's done over his career. Like, these are my top 2 wide receivers in the league. So I'm like, I don't know what to tell you guys. You know what I mean? I love Jackson Smith and Jigba. Jackson Smith and Jigba does what he did last year. Another year, it's like, he's going to be in that rare type of realm up there with Jet and with Chase in terms of the production and everything else. But when I look at Jeremiah Smith, because I remember and again, Keith, firsthand how high I was on Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes, I have a higher grade on Jeremiah Smith even than over MHJ because of the athleticism. Like, and I think with Jeremiah Smith, the thing that might get lost is that when you watch him, guys, you're not going to see the how to put this, the 7-on-7 routes, right? You're not going to see those type of routes. You're going to see a guy that's very intentional and violent, and you're going to see him get to his spot. He knows how to get to his spot. Press man, one-on-one, off coverage, catch ex D'Angelo Pons, his former teammate, catch technique in the Big Ten championship game, and he runs that. It wasn't a stutter. It was a stutter and go. I think it was a stutter and go where he kind of, I don't know if he caught D'Angelo by surprise, because the man, like what he's capable of, but he ate up so much ground of that space and cushion that he gave him. I think he might have caught him off guard a little bit, and he beat him vertically, right? So he has the entire bag as a route runner but it's not going to look the same. I think CJ Stroud said that on the Bleacher Report stream during the draft a couple of years ago with Micah Parsons. He was talking to one of the analysts on there who was critiquing some receiver. And he's like, hey, the routes aren't going to look the same for everybody, right? What Tank Dell does, it's not going to look the same as Jeremiah Smith. So for him, man, with that ability to be intentional, be violent, be explosive, be powerful, yeah, like I have him up there with Chase. And like you said, he probably will finish a notch higher because of the measurables. And dear God, Keith, if he busts anything lower than the 4.42, yeah, you can go ahead and just kiss it goodnight. Like people gonna push all their chips to the table.
Yeah, no, they will. And it's gonna be very interesting to see how this plays out with, obviously him being Ohio State, third year, what happens, production, times who else may emerge as a wide receiver in this draft class with all of the movement due to the transfer portal. But it's going to be a fun storyline to pay attention to. DP, let's go ahead and do this, man. We talked about the number one prospect in the 2027 draft class. It's a wide receiver. It's the wide receiver, Jeremiah Smith from the Ohio State. What we're about to do now, we're about to talk some defensive prospects. This is a loaded defensive class, and we can say that, and it's very early on. We're going to talk about some fun defensive prospects. Let's have a conversation coming up next.
Support for today's episode comes from Indeed Sponsored Jobs. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certifications, and location. So less time gets spent searching and more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Usually the biggest difference isn't someone doing more work. It's having somebody who knows what needs to happen and helps everything run smoother. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now to support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? Well, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Breaking down the top defensive prospects in the 2027 NFL draft ahead of the 2026 college football season inside our top 10, our dueling top 10s. Guys, stay to the end. You'll get the actual full list of both of our top 10s. I'll read them off as we get ready to close out the show, Keith. I think you're talking about the top, like you said, it's a loaded defensive class. There's multiple corners, linebackers, D tackles, edge rushers. I think the only thing we didn't really hit on this summer, Scott, because such a big class was safety. And it was just like, man, we didn't get a chance to really hit on that and everything. We still got next week to kind of tell you guys about what to watch out for safeties and stuff. But either way, Keith, I think for me, my top defender in this class is Leonard Moore out of Notre Dame. We talked about with Jeremiah Smith, and I got to give him, like Jeremiah, I was watching an interview, and they asked Jeremiah Smith, who's the best corner you faced in college football? And he said Leonard Moore. And when the top prospect gives you that type of tip of the cap, I said, you know what? It's very reminiscent of Jamar Chase giving Denzel Ward his flowers for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They're very, very reminiscent. And I think they both faced each other as freshmen in the college football playoffs. That was 2024. Where they both were true freshmen because they're both true juniors and everything. So, like, I would love to see them match up again. You know what I mean? Them both being seasoned vets now. But yeah, the ability to play man coverage, the ability to play off, having the size, the ball skills to take the ball away, the instincts and tracking ability, but also ability to bait quarterbacks. This is a guy that can absolutely change the game, blanket the number one wide receiver, take him out of the game. And I always go back to that USC game. Yes, Mekhi Lemon had some reps where he got free, but you're talking about a guy that was torturing defenses with Jaden Mayava up until that point. And I remember texting one of our editors over at Bleacher Report, and he was big, really big on Mekhi Lemon, Keith. And I said, listen, I like Mekhi. I said, but this is the week I need to see what he's made of. I said, because if they put Leonard Moore on him, I need him to answer the bell. And I would say Leonard Moore won that matchup. So he's my top-rated defensive prospect entering the 2026 college football season.
DP, I like that, but I went a different direction. I went to your neck of the woods, DP. I went to your neck of the woods, and I'm actually surprised you didn't do it. But I'm gonna hold it down for the Carolinas, right? DP,
I'm not a homer. Can't do it.
You know what? That's fair. That's fair. I don't know if that was a shot at me for the LSU situation, or
I know somebody like, oh, he's from South Carolina. Of course, he's going to pick a Gamecock. Yeah. No. I wouldn't. No, relax.
I'm gonna go with edge rusher Dylan Stewart, Mr. 6'5", 250. And listen, we just had this conversation about production and then potential, right? To me, this is based off of potential also. Watching this young man move on film, the explosiveness, the height, the weight, the speed, the bend I believe he has, the high motor, the closing speed. These are the things that, one, you can't teach, and two, when you start talking about some of the best edge rushers in the NFL, the very best ones, they have a calling card that nobody has an answer to. And it's usually some physical tool that they have that's very difficult for people to stop. And I believe that Dylan Stewart has the physical traits to develop that calling card, that ace of spades, to say, you know what, can't anybody stop this? So that's why I went with Dylan Stewart. It's kind of a little bit of an upside bet, but also I believe I've seen enough on film to feel comfortable with this bet. And you think about where the NFL stands, and he's more of the same, right? The conversation that we had, DP, of those hybrid linebacker, edge rusher type situations. He's kind of built and cut from that mold, where I could see him kind of playing in a multiple front if needed to show some different varying looks, because he's a good athlete.
Yeah, no, I'm not mad at it at all, Keith, because it is a high, and typically it's crazy how this is reversed. It's usually you going with the proven production, and I'm going with the high potential, high ceiling. But no, I'm listen. He's my second. It was very close for me when it came down to him and Leonard Moore. I just love Leonard Moore's game, and I think I've been talking about it since he got on campus and really balled out as a freshman. I'm like, man, this even last year, we were talking about Mansour Delane in the year he was having. I was still mentioning, I'm like, Leonard Moore's the best. Like, him and Leonard Moore were the two best corners in the nation, last year, and Leonard Moore's the best corner, in the class, and he would have been the CB1 for me last year. But Dylan Stewart, just freakish ability. Like you said, being able to play in the multiple front, if you want to stand him up as an outside linebacker at 6'5" with those long arms and long legs and that first step quickness, and how much ground he can eat up around the corner, and how that's going to strike fear in the mind of tackles this year. And I want to see is South Carolina widen him out and get him away from the guard, because when we talked when we did his profile, he's doubled a lot. But it's like you're keeping them kind of tightly confined to the corner and to the outside shoulder of the tackle. No, widen him out more. Get him out there in that wide nine and tell that tackle, you're going to be out here on an island by yourself. Like, and matter of fact, I'm sending that linebacker or that safety right up that gap to that guard.
Take up the guard. Yeah, create the one-on-ones. I agree.
Create that one-on-one. Like, you're going to have to deal with this 4 quarters by yourself on third downs. I'm not letting you get that bumper inside, because now that's going to allow Dylan Stewart to be able to cash in on more of these pressures, because his ability to get outside, and now you get guys oversetting, and now I get the cross face and cross chop or just Euro stepping with his long body and limbs. 1 or 2 steps, he's not Giannis. Giannis is a different, but we see with Giannis, he's full, that fast break. He hits the 3-point line. That next step is in the paint, and then he's dunking. And it's that similar situation with those big, long strides, even as a pass rusher, to be able to get past the guy. And I want to see him in more one-on-ones, get him away from that crap. And heck, even if they want to put a tight end over that, cool. Then we're going to reduce down somebody, and we're going to take that tight end away. It's either you're going to let somebody else go free and get that sack on your quarterback, or you're going to give me the one-on-one. Either way, I'm going to force your hand, and I want to see that this year overall. But Keith, you talking about more defensive prospects. I mean, Colin Simmons, you know what I mean? And that's he's my number 3. He's my third highest rated defender, and he's one of the top defensive players in the country. And this is the guy that has the traits. He's not going to check the box from the measurables that you know, like a Dylan Stewart or Jadeveon Clowney and some of these other edge rushers we've seen, but he's got the traits in terms of first step quickness, and he's got the proven production. Like, he knows how to get back to the quarterback.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And that, then, like we say, this it may come down to, right, a traits versus production thing. And we may have the edge rusher battle. That was a little bit different. Was that 2023? Because I was going to say the Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson situation. Remember, Aiden had the proven production, right? And then Trayvon Walker was a big traits guy. How it potentially played on the NFL may be a little flip-flop, right? But Trayvon is still playing good overall football. But I look at it like that situation in perspective, but it may be like a production versus traits thing when it comes down to Dylan Stewart versus Colin Simmons with DP. Listen, we talk top defensive prospects, right? We talked the clear number one prospect, which wasn't quarterbacks either. Now we're about to get to the quarterbacks, right? We are about to get to the quarterbacks. How many quarterbacks did each of us have inside of our top 10? We'll discuss that coming up.
Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works together in one place. Odoo is one platform to manage, grow, and scale your business. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. That's true in sports as it is in business. I mean, look at the Seattle Seahawks. They won the NFL Super Bowl. They won a Super Bowl a couple months ago with Sam Darnold at quarterback because everyone worked together for that one goal. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Odoo is one platform to manage, grow, and scale your business. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. It's odoo.com/lockedon. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you, our everydayers. How many quarterbacks inside our top 10? So I'm going to list off what Keith has. Now, like I said, at the end of the show, guys, I'm going to tell you what the actual top 10s look like. Keith has Arch Manning, Darian Mensah, and Dante Moore. And I have the exact same thing. We have the three quarterbacks inside our top 10. They just look a little bit different in terms of where they are ranked. But I think that's a good thing compared to what we saw this past draft, right? Where it was Fernando Mendoza up into the draft. It was Mendoza was the number one overall pick. We ended up getting Ty Simpson at 13. But for the most part, everybody was down on the class, right? It was a class that came in super highly touted. It was supposed to be Drew Aller. It was supposed to be Cade Klubnik.
Oh, yeah. Garrett Nussmeier. I was trying to think, DP. I'm like, wait, it was supposed
Parson
to be
Beck.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a, like, yeah, we were supposed to.
What they say, time will tell, huh? Time
will tell. Time will tell, and it heals all wounds. So for those who were hurt by the last year's QB class, time will tell. You're healed. Your wounds may be healed from this class if everything goes the way we expected, Keith. But yeah, like last year was supposed to be a bunch of quarterbacks inside the first round, right? Like multiple in the top 10.
Yep. I'm gonna ask you this then. Since we're comparing last year to this year, what is the comfortability meter or comparison to where we were last year with the Cade Klubniks, with the Nussmeyers, the Lenore Sellers, and the Carson Becks, right? Plenty of quarterbacks, honestly, versus this year with our having three in the top 10, right? When we talk about Dante Moore, Arch Manning, and what's the guy and Darian Mensah. What's the comfort? Like, were you more confident entering last year's college football season, or are you more confident this year?
I'm more confident this year. I mean, I liked last year's group for sure, but
the reason. Let me just fill this out, right? Because the year before, we were pretty spot on, right? We talked Caleb Williams, we talked Bo Nix, we talked Jaden came out of nowhere. Drake May was a kind of a lock in that situation. So that one was more consistent from beginning to end. Last year was a total curveball. And then so now, I'm putting it in preference of this year. Like, how do we feel from start to finish about this?
Yeah. No, matter of fact, you missed the class. It was the Shador Cam Ward class.
Oh, so you're right.
We had two back-to-back classes with the consensus like, I hate this. Like, you know what I mean? The consensus was like, I absolutely hate this. Like, and it just didn't go. Yeah, it didn't go the way people planned. But like you said, it was the 2024 class where we had Bo and Jaden and Penix and Drake May and but in that class came out to be, in terms of the amount of quarterbacks inside the top 15, top 20, no one saw that coming. Like we did not see that coming. So yeah, I think with this class, when you look at Mensah, two strong seasons, for one at Tulane, one at Duke, and now you're talking about, you rarely see guys play well and then go into a much better situation. What I mean?
And the reason, because I think you mentioned this, was it yesterday's day before yesterday's podcast, and you discussed him, or we both discussed him, right? They're basically transferring from Duke to Miami.
Yeah.
But and then we talked about the Tulane to Duke situation. I would have been more concerned about the Tulane to Duke jump versus the Duke to Miami jump, because they both in the same conference. So he's going to play the same teams, right? So and I think this is the point you were on track to making, is that he has good talent now.
He's got college football playoff talent around him now.
Yeah.
And it's like, with a coach who's hungry to get back to the big dance and want to avenge the loss they just had. So, so I look at Mensah and look at Arch and the way Arch finished the year. Now, what I'll say is this: Arch may be a little bit comparable to Cade, because remember, Cade had a stretch down that year before 2024 season where he played good ball. We're like, man, if we transfer this into a full season, Cade, like, we're good. It's the same thing, but the difference is with this class going in, guys are healthy, right? Last year, going into last year's class, Garrett Nussmeier got hurt, you know what I mean, before the season. And we didn't know that LSU didn't give us the extent of the injury, but we found out it was a much bigger injury than what we believed. And it completely threw off the entire season, and everything else, OC, all that stuff went down the drain. You know what I mean? From play calling and everything. So I feel better with Arch and with Darian Mensah and with Dante Moore. Dante Moore going back to the exact same situation. The only difference is offensive line changes some, and he's getting a new OC, because his OC is the new head coach at Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's like Will Stein. I think he left Oregon. Now he's at Kentucky, and crazy enough, Nick Anderson, who we've been talking about for the last 3 years, he transferred from LSU to Kentucky, the wide receiver who used to be at Oklahoma. He's there. The backup quarterback to his name Kenny Minchie from Notre Dame, he transferred to Kentucky. So Kentucky might be. They also got CJ Baxter, the former 5-star running back from Texas. He transferred to. Will Stein might be cooking over there in Kentucky, and the Wildcats might be back. We'll see. But yeah, Keith, I feel, and even with not just those guys, but if with Lenore Sellers, they brought in. I think they got some new receivers come in. If the offensive line plays well, they brought in a new. I forget the OC's name. They brought a new OC in. I feel better about his situation going into the season. Right? We know CJ Carr with Notre Dame has and the young pieces they have and everything. And I mean, Julian saying not only do you still have Jeremiah Smith, you also get Chris Henry Jr. walking in as a 5-star freshman ready to terrorize the Big Ten. So these quarterbacks, I would say they're in much better situations and not too much turnover, where they were getting like new DCs and all stuff like that in Clemson. And there was a lot of stuff that went wrong, in with the last year's class overall.
Yeah, and I guess I'll answer my own question, right, to follow you up. I feel fairly comfortable with this. I'll tell you, of the top 3, right, Dante Moore, Arch Manning, and Darian Mensah, Moore I may be the most concerned about, and not from a winning games perspective, but I think there'll be an extreme nitpicking of his game as the draft process. I think once the season is over with, I think there's going to be more and more conversation. But I'll tell you why I'm kind of confident is guys that's kind of off the radar a little bit, right? That could potentially be in really good situations. Well, One of them's not, but I'll get to that one. Drew Mestamaker, right?
Yes.
The Oklahoma State situation, talented quarterback, and you're like, okay, you just expect the North Texas, your highly tied quarterback. Oh, for sure, some big program is going to, snatch you up. No disrespect to Oklahoma State, but there's a tie there, right? I think it's either the former coach or North Texas or the offensive coordinator took the head coaching job there. So, and in my perspective, that's you're going to be in sync, right? There's a lot of familiarity there. So, can he pick up right where he left off with North Texas? You do that in the Big 12. You put Oklahoma State in a position where they could potentially win the Big 12. Yep, we're talking about a really good quarterback and a lot of conversation. Who else I was talking about? Nico Imiava. I'm interested to see a guy with a lot of talent, right? A lot of arm talent. Where does he go from there, right? Like, in his repeat performance, the UCLA take steps forward. And then lastly, the guy that I'm extremely interested in, and there's going to be a lot of conversation about. I mean, just get ready. Brendan Sorsby. I was surprised, DP, when I watched him. I was pleasantly surprised when I watched him. I was like, got a little bit of gamer to him, right? I understood why certain schools took the risk they took on trying to bring him in because I understood it, right? But he's another guy that you can see. I think, I don't floor. You can see a Bo Nix trajectory. And I think there's a lot of ceiling there also. If you want to,
I think my comp for him was like Carson Wentz. Like, I saw a lot of Carson Wentz in the big body, big arm, mobile, can make all the fun throws on the move and everything. He's the guy to paint the picture for the listeners. Brendan Sorsby, he's it was an episode of, I think it's an episode of The Simpsons, where it's like guys smoking a cigar. He just kind of comes out of the alley, out of the darkness. That's gonna be Brendan Sorsby by the time we get to the draft season. Right now, he's just in the alley chilling because he's like, I can't play football right now. Nobody is going to talk about me during the season. Once we get the draft season, and I hope that friend of the show, Drew Fabianich, or even over with the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl, I feel like one of them are going to bring him in so that he can come in and play. I think that's bound to happen just overall. But Keith, I'll throw John Mateer, another one going back to a good situation. And if the mechanics, Keith, if the mechanics stay as he's worked on, he could be a much more accurate quarterback this year. Because remember last year, a lot of ball trajectory issues.
And it was health, right? Health was an issue with them too.
The broken hand ahead of the Texas game. So being healthy is going to be big. Mechanics going to be big for him. But I'm going to write off the top 10, Keith. I'm going to go through yours. At number 1, Keith, you have Jeremiah Smith. We talked about it. Jeremiah Smith at number 1. Dylan Stewart at number 2. You have Arch Manning at number 3 out of Texas, quarterback out of Texas. You have Colin Simmons, edge rusher out of Texas at number 4. You got Darian Mensah from Miami. And him and Dante Moore back-to-back at 5 and 6. Ellis Robinson, the corner out of Georgia. You have him at number 7. Cam Coleman, Texas wide receiver, at number 8. You have Leonard Moore at number 9 and Ahmad Hardy, running back out of Missouri, at number 10. For me, Keith, I have, of course, Jeremiah Smith. I have Leonard Moore at number 2, Dylan Stewart at number 3. I'm really high on what Cam Coleman's going to be able to do. I have him at number 4, Colin Simmons at 5, Darian Mensah and Arch Manning at 6 and 7. I'm really high on this kid, David Stone out of Oklahoma. Keith, I think he can be an absolute game wrecker this year for Brent Venables, defensive tackle. I have him at number 8. I got Dante Moore at number 9. And Keith, we both ended up with a running back. I have a different running back, Jaden Baugh out of Florida. I have him at number 10. I love that kid's game. I think when I did my profile, I said I see some Le'Veon Bell in him. I see some Le'Veon Bell. Just even more physical because this dude likes to run through people and stiff arm, and he's like the David Bailey of running backs because I believe he goes no gloves. So when you got a running back there with no gloves on, you might want to worry about that a little bit because he doesn't care about his hands, which means he's gonna straight arm you. He doesn't care.
100% with DP. That's our top 10 list. That's a wrap on this episode. I'm gonna tell everybody this. Comment if you're on YouTube, right? Let us know if you agree or disagree or who you agree or disagree with. And you can drop your own top 10 list. We'll make sure to check it out. List a comment. If you're listening on audio, right, make sure to like, share this episode. And DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the talent code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Coming up on tomorrow's show, guys, it's Friday. It's the day. It's Christmas Eve for us football fans, us college football fans. Week 0 kicks off on Saturday. So we're going to preview the action with prospects that you need to watch, offensive, defensive, and what prospects need to make a statement in week 0. We're going to talk about all that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.